Welcome to our Jefferson Scranton Peyton Sheridan football highlight film. We certainly I hope you enjoy what you see next. With me, Doug Reider, is Bill Kibby, the Jefferson Scranton Peyton Sheridan head football coach for all 11 previous JSPC seasons. To my left is Joe Gitch, who has been my color commentator on cable TV and radio broadcasts for nearly all of that time as well. We're going to spend just a few minutes talking about Ram football, JSPC football over the last decade plus one season before we look at some of the great plays over the years. The Rams under Coach Kibby in the 11 seasons actually have played just over 100 games as JSPC, winning 63 and losing 40, and that includes a 62-37 regular season record and 1-3 playoff mark in Class 3A. Coach Kibby, over 100 games have gone under the bridge as JSPC, and you've been the head coach of all of them. And tell us a little bit about, just putting together the JSPC program from Jefferson and Jefferson Scranton and then Peyton Sheridan coming in. And what are some of the memories you have of those early days?
Okay, well, it's been fun. I never thought I would be here 11 years and going on to 12, but it's been that way because it's been so much fun to work with these people. The first year was probably the toughest because not only did they have to learn a new system from me, I didn't even know their names, and it was really hard, and I think I developed diabetes that time. I couldn't see for a while, and so it was a tough year for me. Peyton Sheridan was coming off those great teams of 2 state championships and then losing one ball game, I think, 1 or 2, and then coming and sharing with us. And so it was really hard to get the two groups together. Of all the teams I coached, that one, maybe more than any of the others, would I love to have come back a second year or third year when we really knew each other a little bit better, because there was really some great talent on that football team. And,
fall of '88 we're talking about.
Fall of '88, very talented team, and it took a while to gel between Peyton Sheridan, Jefferson Scranton, me, and them. So it was a very hard year, maybe the toughest year of the 11 that we had, just trying to get all that coordinated. But it was a good stepping stone. We got started, and I think they sort of started the way that we wanted to play JSPC football, and we got into a good run there in the early 90s, which really went great. And it's just been great between the two schools also. I think it's just worked out really good.
Joe, I think one thing that sometimes we as fans and broadcasters, writers take for granted too, as Bill mentioned, the adjustments, players to him and so on. Well, his staff had pretty much been a veteran staff. He was kind of the new guy coming in, and they all got along great and knew each other. And we talk so many times now about how great the staff works together. But I mean, that's not easy either.
Well, thinking back, and Bill touched on it, you could tell that whole season that there was a tremendous getting to know you atmosphere with that team. You could see the talent from the Jefferson team from the previous year, from the PC teams coming down, and just watching them play, you could tell they just weren't comfortable with each other, and it was a learning process. And then on top of that, as you mentioned, you put the staff on top of it. I agree with Bill. If there was one year you could do over, that one might be at number one because, as Bill mentioned, there was some tremendous talent on that team, and it was just sort of a getting to know you type year. But it was a lot of fun. It was an interesting process.
No mulligans, unfortunately, in high school football, and the Rams were 5-4 that season. Then in '89, a 4-5 year. That was the last losing season, however, for some time. That 4-5 team, Bill, had a lot of young guys who later on went and were the core of those playoff teams.
Yeah, we played a lot of young kids, sophomores then. Going back to that '88 team, I think that's the one. I think Scott Swanson kicked a field goal. Was this '88 that he kicked a field goal to win the ball game against?
Algona
Garrigan, and that was a team that went back to when I was at St. Edmund, and we always had such a hard time. So that would be a highlight of that team to me that year anyway. There are a lot of highlights. But then the next year, we had younger people, but as you said, a lot of those sophomores stepped in, and then we saw them for 3 years then coming up. and really molded what really turned out to be some good years there in the 90s.
Joe, 5 straight seasons, 90, 91, 92, 93, and 94. The Rams won at least 7 games each one of those years, highlighted by 9-2 in 91, the only Ram playoff win as JSPC. 8 wins in 90, and then 7 in a row in 92, 93, 94. Really, as we look back, I mean, only 11 seasons of JSPC football, but those probably are the heydays to this point.
Well, yeah, and those were, looking at that early 90s sequence there, those were sort of thrill-a-minute years because it was such a big play era. It wasn't, you think about teams and winning teams, it certainly wasn't a grind-em-out, smash-mouth football type of program, and it wasn't low-scoring defensive struggles. It was big play, exciting football. And I mean, that the next year, the 89 team, I think, sort of set the tone, and then the following year, and it's been a trademark ever since JSPC was born, of unbelievable special team play, both from the kickoff returns and the punt returns, but also kick coverage type things, and that's sort of where the trademark was set of all of these teams, and it really set a tone, and boy, it was fun to watch those teams play.
We're going to look at some of the great returns here in one of our segments on this highlight film. Bill, then once you get past 94, that's been the last Ram playoff year. Doesn't mean that you haven't had some good teams, but 95 saw the team go 4-5, 96 5-4, 97 5-4, and this last fall in 98 2-7. What comes to mind to me, that 4-5 team in 95, many people will say it's your staff's best coaching job. Certainly one of them, because the talent was there to win, well, realistically 4 games, and the Rams won 4 games.
Yeah, I think we went into that season with the idea that it was going to be tough to get a winning season, but could also have a hard time winning a ball game too. And they won every ball game that we thought they could, and we were just outmanned in the other ball games. And I remember that's when John Fick was playing, and he had some outstanding football games there. Going back to one of the years that Joe was talking about, I remember he said thrill a minute, and I remember in one of those was against ADM when we beat them 7-0, and that was heart failure after heart failure because I think they were inside the 20-yard line about 5 times, maybe inside the 10 5 times in a row, and we just held them out. So there were really a lot of thrills, and we seemed to really get our share of breaks during those years. Also, I remember playing Dallas Center Grimes when we threw a pass that was underthrown, and the Dallas Center Grimes defender had hit his chest, flew up, and Steve Carey caught it and went in for a touchdown. And I know they say you make your own breaks, but sometimes you got to be awful lucky too. And these last several years, we just haven't had the breaks that we had during that stretch. That stretch was a great run.
I think the interesting thing, if you had all the good breaks early, I think they all came home to roost in 1997,
Yes.
and maybe all in that ADM game in 97 down there.
A 5-4 year, and it's a little silly maybe to say so, but around here we refer to that as the best 5-4 team in the state. Now, how do you argue that? I don't know. An awfully good football team that, yes, just for whatever reason, the loony things went against them almost every time, didn't it?
Yeah, so it was a tough year for them, and like you said, we were positive we were better than that, but maybe we weren't as good in some of those other years either. So I think breaks even out through the course of the time, but we'd sure love to have those breaks we had in the 90s come back to us again.
And then last year, 2-7, and certainly not what the Rams have been accustomed to or had hoped for. But there were some highlights, some great individual plays out of that year, Bill. And again, 98 was a year where a lot of younger guys played.
Right. We're hoping that maybe we can be a little bit better next year and the year after that. Again, we didn't get the breaks we needed. We didn't get all the wins we wanted either. We thought we were capable of being a little bit better football team than what we were. But I really thought we capped it off. At the last game of the season against Waukee, I thought we played really well, and then the last touchdown we scored with Gabe Carver going a long ways. I don't know how long it was, but he broke several tackles, and that was just a great way to end the season because we didn't have a lot of highlights during the season there.
Okay, in our next segment, we're going to talk about some of the great returns the Rams have had, punt returns, kickoff returns, a lot of those for touchdowns, and Ram fans will get some thrills looking at those again on our next segment of our JSPC highlight